The emergency beacon stopped transmitting 3 cycles ago. Commander Vrexel stared at the blank monitor, mandibles clicking in frustration as the command center of the Tholian vessel Eternal Vigilance hummed with anxious activity. The colony on Proxima 6 had gone silent after sending a desperate SOS, something about an unknown pathogen decimating their population. Any response from neighboring systems? Vrexel asked, 6-fingered hands splayed across the navigation console. Science. Officer Loril swiveled her eye stalks toward him. Nothing from our allies, Commander. But we've detected an unregistered vessel approaching from the Earth quadrant. A cold dread settled in Vrexel's thorax. Humans? Here? The Tholian collective had avoided contact with the Deathworlders of Earth for generations. Stories of their resilience to toxins, radiation, and atmospheric extremes had become cautionary tales. Humans could survive conditions that would kill most sentient species. They thrived in gravity that would crush the exoskeletons of lesser beings and withstood temperature variations that would cause cellular collapse in more evolved life forms. Confirm visual, Vrexel ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a compact vessel with sleek lines and minimal markings. No ceremonial filigree or status indicators like proper civilization vessels. Purely functional. Dangerous. They're hailing us, communications specialist Nix announced, her carapace paling slightly. On screen, Vrexel said, straightening to his full height. The human that appeared looked deceptively fragile. Soft flesh with no protective plating, exposed ocular organs, and a disturbing lack of proper appendages. But Vrexel knew better. This was a creature whose ancestors survived an ice age with nothing but primitive tools and combustion. Greetings, Tholian vessel. I'm Captain Mira Kovalev of the Earth Science vessel Hippocrates. We received your colony's distress signal and came to offer assistance. Vrexel's inner membranes fluttered in alarm. You intercepted a secure Tholian emergency frequency? The human's face moved in that unsettling way humans had, lips pulling back to reveal bone-like protrusions. A smile. They called it, though in Tholian culture displaying grinding structures was a death threat. Your encryption was impressive, but we've had practice. Our linguists deciphered enough to understand you're facing a biological threat. We've brought medical personnel and equipment. This is a collective matter, Vrexel said firmly. We appreciate your concern, but intervention is unnecessary. Captain Kovalev's expression hardened. Commander, with respect, your colony has been silent for 3 days. If this is a contagion, every hour matters. We will handle our own. The human leaned forward. Commander Vrexel, is it? We've analyzed the partial data from the SOS. This pathogen attacks chitin-based neural pathways. Your people are particularly vulnerable. Vrexel froze. How could they know that? The SOS had been heavily damaged. Even the collective's experts hadn't extracted that level of detail. Let us help, Kovalev continued. We're sending over our chief medical officer with a sampling kit. She can at least identify what you're facing. Hours later, Vrexel watched with mounting apprehension as the human doctor worked in their quarantine lab. Dr. Asha Mehta, small even by human standards, moved with practiced precision, seemingly unaffected by the high-gravity, ammonia-rich atmosphere the Tholians had maintained to discourage her. The pathogen is artificial, Dr. Mehta announced, not looking up from her instruments. A bioweapon designed specifically for Tholian physiology. Vrexel's antennae quivered. Impossible. Who would— I don't know, she interrupted. But I do. Know we need to get to your colony immediately if there's anyone left to save. As the Eternal Vigilance and Hippocrates prepared to jump to Proxima 6, Vrexel couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just invited a far greater danger aboard than any pathogen. What the humans had sent wasn't help. It was something else entirely. Proxima. Phi loomed in the view screen, its azure atmosphere clouded with stirring dust storms. The planet should have been teeming with activity, mining operations in the northern continent, research outposts dotting the equator, orbital platforms transferring precious minerals to waiting cargo vessels. Instead, silence dominated every frequency. "Life signs?" Vrexil demanded. Laurel manipulated her scanner with trembling appendages. "Faint readings from the central colony hub. Approximately 12 survivors, maybe fewer. 12. From a colony of 8,000. Captain Kovalev's face appeared on the communication screen. "Commander, my team is ready to transport down. We've developed an initial countermeasure based on Dr. Mehta's analysis." "I will accompany you," Vrexil declared, silencing the protests of his bridge officers with a sharp gesture. The human captain nodded. "We'll meet you in your transporter bay in 15 minutes. Kovalev out." Security Chief Dravix clicked his mandibles in disapproval. "Commander, protocol forbids." "Protocol didn't save our colony," Vrexil snapped. "Prepare a hazard." "Team." When Vrexil entered the transporter room, he found 3 humans already waiting. They wore form-fitting environmental suits that seemed impossibly thin compared to the bulky protection his own team required. Captain Kovalev, Dr. Mehta, and a tall human male with dark skin and watchful eyes. "This is Lieutenant Ezra Okafor, Security and Tactical," Kovalev introduced. "He'll ensure our safety." Ezra nodded, resting his hand on what was clearly a weapon. "Commander." The transport to the surface was uneventful, but what awaited them struck Vrexil to his core. The colony's main compound, once a shining testament to Tholian engineering, lay in ruins. Not from attack, but from within. Barricades erected and torn down. Signs of desperate last stands in corridors. Marks of weapons fire on walls. Tholian weapons. "They turned on each other," Dravix whispered in horror. Dr. Mehta ran her scanner over dark stains on the floor. The pathogen affected their neural pathways, specifically the regions controlling aggression and fear. They didn't just die, they tore each other apart. "The survivors?" Vrexil asked, steeling himself. "They found them in the colony's deepest level, a research laboratory sealed by emergency protocols. 11 Tholians, not 12, huddled behind barricaded doors. Most were scientists, their specialized markings. Identifying them as biologists and medical researchers. One stepped forward, his chitin dull and cracked from stress. "Commander Vrexil, I am Research Director Kaz. You brought humans?" "They intercepted our distress call. They've developed a potential countermeasure." Kaz's antenna flattened against his head. "No, they cannot be here. You must send them away immediately." Dr. Mehta stepped forward, scanner raised. "Sir, you're showing signs of infection. We need to administer—" "Keep away!" Kaz shrieked, backing against the wall. "It was them! Don't you understand? The humans did this!" A heavy silence fell. Vrexil turned slowly to face Captain Kovalev, whose expression remained carefully neutral. "What is he talking about?" Vrexil demanded. Kaz's voice trembled with rage and fear. "The pathogen. It's derived from a human virus. We found the markers. It was modified to target our biology, but its base structure is unquestionably human." Lieutenant Ezra shifted his weight, hand moving subtly closer to his weapon. Dr. Mehta shook her head. "That's impossible. We would never—" "We found proof," another scientist interrupted, activating a holographic display. "The pathogen contains synthetic components that match known human biotech signatures. It was engineered." Captain Kovalev's face hardened. "Commander Vrexil, I assure you, if this pathogen has human origins, it wasn't sanctioned by our government. We came here to help." "Did you?" Vrexil's inner membranes fluttered with a mixture of fear and anger. "Or did you come to assess the effectiveness of your weapon?" The journey back to the Eternal Vigilance proceeded in icy silence. Vrexel had ordered the humans confined to guest quarters, comfortable but closely monitored. The surviving Tholian scientists were in quarantine, receiving treatment for early-stage infection. Director Kaz paced his isolation chamber, muttering continuously about human deception. The evidence is inconclusive, Science Officer Laurel reported in Vrexel's private chamber. The pathogen does contain elements similar to human RNA viruses, but the engineering techniques aren't consistent with known human methods. Vrexel clicked his mandibles in frustration. Could they have deliberately used unfamiliar techniques to disguise their involvement? Possible, but unlikely. The modifications show signs of, I would almost say, Mirandarian biochemistry. Vrexel froze. The Mirandarians, a highly advanced species who had rejected membership in the Galactic Concord centuries ago, preferring isolation to political entanglements, known for their expertise in biological sciences. Why would Mirandarians target a Tholian colony? Unknown, Laurel admitted. We've had no contact with them in generations. A chime at the door interrupted their discussion. Security Chief Dravix entered, his posture radiating tension. Commander, the human doctor is requesting access to our medical database. She claims she can prove her people's innocence. Denied, Vrexel said instantly. Sir, Dravix continued hesitantly. She also says she's discovered something concerning in Captain Kovalev's behavior. 20 minutes later, Vrexel sat across from Dr. Mehta in a secure conference room. The human looked exhausted, her small frame seeming even more fragile under the harsh lighting. Speak freely, Doctor, Vrexel prompted. Something's wrong with Captain Kovalev and Lieutenant Ezra, she said without preamble. They're not following standard Earth Medical Corps protocols for this mission. Explain. When we received your distress signal, we should have contacted the Galactic Concord immediately. Instead, Captain Kovalev insisted we respond alone. She leaned forward. And when I developed the initial countermeasure, they seemed disappointed it worked so quickly. Vrexel's antennae stiffened. You believe your own captain wanted the pathogen to spread? I don't know what to believe anymore. But I noticed them transmitting encrypted messages to an unknown recipient before we reached your colony. Her eyes met his. Commander, I took an oath to preserve life. If my people are involved in this somehow, I want to expose it as much as you do. Before Vrexel could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Commander, to the bridge immediately, came Nix's urgent voice over the intercom. Vrexel rushed to the bridge, with Dr. Mehta following. The main view screen showed a massive vessel emerging from jump space, sleek and predatory with weapons ports open. Unknown configuration, Laurel reported. But energy signatures suggest Mirandarian design. We're being hailed, Nix announced. The face that appeared on screen wasn't Mirandarian. It was human, an older male with silver hair and cold eyes. This is Admiral Varric of the Orion Concordat. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Vrexel's confusion must have been evident because the man smiled thinly. I see Captain Kovalev hasn't revealed her true allegiance. How disappointing. The Orion Concordat? Vrexel repeated. There is no such. We are humanity's true future, Admiral, Varric interrupted, unburdened by the weakness of compassion that plagues Earth's government. Dr. Mehta stepped forward, horror etched on her face. You're the separation faction, the military extremists who disappeared 10 years ago. We didn't disappear, Doctor. We evolved. Varric's smile widened. And now we've returned to claim what's ours with the help of our Mirandarian allies. The pieces suddenly clicked into place for Vrexel. The pathogen was a test. Precisely, Commander. A demonstration of our new capabilities. On the adjacent tactical screen, Vrexel saw that Captain Kovalev and Lieutenant Ezra had somehow escaped their quarters and were heading for the docking bay. They're stealing a shuttle, Dravix reported, Admiral Varric chuckled. My operatives are quite resourceful. You've played your part perfectly, Commander Vrexel. Soon, the galaxy will learn what happens to those who underestimate humanity's potential for violence. The Merendarian warship struck without warning. The first barrage took out the Eternal Vigilance's primary shield generator, sending cascading power failures throughout the ship. Vrexel clung to his command chair as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in an eerie crimson glow. "Return fire," he ordered. "Target their propulsion systems." The Tholian vessel responded sluggishly, weapons systems hampered by damage to the main power conduits. Their retaliatory strike barely dented the Merendarian shields. "Commander," Nix called out, "the human shuttle has launched. They're heading for the Merendarian vessel." On screen, the small craft darted away from the Vigilance, weaving through weapons fire with unnatural precision. The Merendarian ship opened. "A small bay to receive them." "Can we disable their shuttle?" Vrexel asked. Weapons Officer Triz shook his head. "Negative. Our targeting systems are compromised." Dr. Meta stood beside Vrexel, knuckles white as she gripped the console. "Commander, I need to get to the medical bay. If this is truly an Orion Concordat operation, I might understand their endgame better than anyone else." Vrexel hesitated, only briefly. "Go, take Security Officer Plex with you." As Meta hurried from the bridge, Science Officer Laurel moved to Vrexel's side. "Commander, I've analyzed the attack pattern. They're not trying to destroy us." "What do you mean?" "Their strikes are precise. Communications, weapons, shields. They want us disabled but intact." Her eye stalks swiveled nervously. "I believe they intend to board us." Before Vrexel could respond, a new alert sounded. "Multiple smaller craft launching from the Merendarian vessel," Triz reported. "Boarding parties incoming." "Seal all emergency bulkheads," Vrexel ordered. "Security teams to all potential entry points. Initiate Protocol Shattered Shell." Protocol Shattered Shell, the last resort of a Tholian commander facing capture. If the boarders couldn't be repelled, the ship would self-destruct, taking everyone with it. The first explosion rocked the ship minutes later. The boarding parties had breached the outer hull near engineering. Vrexel received tactical updates as his security teams engaged the invaders, a mix of humans in advanced combat suits and tall, willowy Merendarians wielding energy weapons. "They're heading for both the engine room and the medical quarantine," Dravix reported grimly. "They want the survivors from Proxima 6. Vrexel's communications panel chimed. It was Dr. Meta, her face streaked with sweat and what appeared to be blood. "Commander, I've accessed their tactical communications," she said breathlessly. "This isn't just about testing a weapon. The pathogen is phase 1 of something bigger." "Explain." "The virus doesn't just kill, it rewrites neural pathways first. The aggression, the paranoia, they're studying how it affects different species. The Tholian colony was just the first test site." Her eyes widened. "They call it Project Prometheus. The connection cut abruptly as another explosion shook the ship. "Dr. Meta," Vrexel called. No response. "They've reached the medical bay," Dravix reported grimly. Vrexel made his decision. "Initiate evacuation protocols. Get as many crew to the escape pods as possible. I'm going to medical." "Commander, that's suicide," Laurel protested. "If they capture those infected colonists, they'll perfect their bioweapon." Vrexel moved toward the exit. "Continue firing on the Merendarian vessel. Buy us as much time as you can." The corridors of the Eternal Vigilance had become a battlefield. Vrexel moved cautiously, phase pistol drawn, stepping over the bodies of both Tholians and invaders. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated with each new explosion, making his progress even more treacherous. When he finally reached the medical bay, the scene before him froze his blood. Dr. Meta stood surrounded by Orion Concordat soldiers, her hands raised in surrender. Beside her, Captain Kovalev smiled coldly, a neural disruptor pointed at the doctor's head. "Commander Vrexel," Kovalev greeted him. How kind of you to join us. We were just collecting our research subjects. Behind them, Murendarian scientists were sealing the unconscious Tholian survivors into stasis chambers. You won't succeed, Vrexel said, raising his weapon. We already have, replied Kovalev. Project Prometheus is just beginning, and your people have provided invaluable data. Vrexel assessed his options rapidly. 5 Orion Concordat soldiers, 3 Murendarian scientists, Captain Kovalev, and somewhere nearby, Lieutenant Ezra. Against him alone, with Dr. Mehta as a hostage. You won't make it off this ship, Vrexel stated calmly. I've initiated Protocol Shattered Shell. We have less than 15 minutes before the antimatter containment fails. Kovalev's smug expression faltered momentarily. You're bluffing. Ammo. Check your scanners. As if on cue, the ship's computer announced, Warning, antimatter containment destabilizing. 14 minutes to critical failure. Load the subjects now. Kovalev barked at the Murendarians, who hastened their efforts with the stasis pods. Dr. Mehta caught Vrexel's eye, her face resolute despite her fear. She gave an almost imperceptible nod toward the medical supply cabinet behind Kovalev. Understanding dawned. The cabinet contained volatile compounds used in Tholian medical procedures, compounds highly reactive to energy discharges. Even if you escape with your test subjects, Vrexel continued, stepping slowly to the left to draw attention away from the cabinet, the Galactic Concord will hunt you down. They'll know what the Orion Concordat has done. Kovalev laughed harshly. By then, it will be too late. Project Prometheus isn't just a weapon, Commander. It's evolution guided by human ingenuity. While Kovalev monologued, Dr. Mehta shifted her weight subtly, preparing to move. Why target Tholians first? Vrexel asked, continuing his distraction. Your species represents the perfect test case, advanced enough to provide valuable neurological data, isolated enough that your disappearance wouldn't immediately alarm the major powers. Kovalev gestured to the stasis pods. And most importantly, physiologically different enough from humans that we could perfect the delivery system without risk to ourselves. The Murendarians. Vrexel glanced at the willowy aliens. What do they gain from this alliance? One of the Murendarians looked up, multifaceted eyes gleaming. Survival. Your galactic concord grows too powerful, too homogenized. The humans offered us a path to ensure our independence. By helping them conquer everyone else? That's not independence. It's trading one master for another. Kovalev checked her timepiece impatiently. Enough philosophy. Ezra, are the extraction shuttles ready? Lieutenant Ezra's voice came over her communicator. Ready, Captain. But we need to move now. That antimatter containment failure appears genuine. 10 minutes to critical failure, the ship's computer confirmed. Move out, Kovalev ordered. Take the subjects. Vrexel and Mehta acted simultaneously. The Tholian fired at the medical cabinet, while the doctor dropped to the floor. The energy blast ignited the compounds, creating an explosive flashbang effect. In the confusion, Vrexel fired precisely at the neural disruptor in Kovalev's hand, destroying it. Dr. Mehta rolled toward one of the fallen Tholian security officers, grabbing their weapon. Back to back, the human doctor and Tholian commander fought against the disoriented invaders. The stasis pods! Vrexel shouted as he saw 2 Murendarians attempting to wheel them out during the chaos. Dr. Mehta pivoted and fired, hitting the anti-grav mechanism on the pods. They crashed to the floor, but remained intact, the unconscious Tholians inside protected by the containment fields. In the ensuing firefight, Kovalev took cover behind medical equipment, shouting orders to her remaining soldiers. Kill them both! We need those specimens! 8 minutes to critical failure, the computer reminded them emotionlessly. We need to get to the escape pods, Mehta yelled to Vrexel over the weapons fire. Not without destroying these stasis chambers, Vrexel responded. We cannot let them perfect this weapon. A new voice joined the chaos as Commander Laurel appeared at the secondary entrance to the medical bay, leading a team of Tholian security officers. "Commander Vrexil, this way!" The reinforcements turned the tide, driving back the Orion Concordat forces. Kovalev, seeing her advantage disappearing, tapped her communicator. "Ezra, Plan Omega, now!" Seconds later, targeted explosions rocked the corridor outside, blocking the Tholians' retreat. 7 minutes to critical failure. "They're trying to trap us here with the antimatter containment failure," Laurel called out. Vrexil made a decision. "Dr. Meta, help me destroy these stasis chambers. Laurel, get the rest of the crew to the escape pods." "But Commander, that's an order." As Laurel and the security team retreated to coordinate the evacuation, Vrexil and Meta worked frantically to overload the stasis fields, which would destroy the specimens inside. "I'm sorry," Meta said softly as they worked. "Not all humans are like them." "I know," Vrexil replied, "or I wouldn't be trusting you now." Just as they finished programming the overload sequence, Lieutenant Ezra appeared in the doorway, a heavy plasma cannon braced against his shoulder. "Step away from the pods," he commanded. 6 minutes to critical failure," the ship's computer announced with mechanical calm. Ezra's eyes darted between Vrexil, Meta, and the stasis pods, his plasma cannon unwavering. "I said step away. Now!" "It's too late," Dr. Meta replied, standing. Her ground. "The overload sequence is locked in. Even if you kill us, you can't stop it." Vrexil positioned himself slightly in front of Meta. "Your ship is still out there, Lieutenant. Save yourself." A muscle twitched in Ezra's jaw. "You don't understand. This isn't about saving me. Project Prometheus is humanity's only chance against what's coming." "What are you talking about?" Meta demanded. "The void between galaxies isn't empty, Doctor. The Murendarians detected them decades ago. Entities moving toward our galaxy. Massive. Ancient. They've consumed other galaxies before." His voice dropped. "The Galactic Concord would have us negotiate, coexist. The Orion Concordat knows better." "So you'd turn us all into weapons?" Vrexil asked. "Rewrite our neural pathways to make us what? Soldiers in your war?" "Not soldiers. Survivors." Ezra's grip on the plasma cannon tightened. "The pathogen doesn't just create aggression. The final stage creates coordination. A hive mind resistant to psychic influence, immunity to the void ones." Meta shook her head. "You're talking about destroying what makes us sentient in the first place." 5 minutes to critical failure. Ezra's resolve seemed to falter. "Captain Kovalev and the others, they're already aboard the extraction shuttle. They left me to secure the specimens. Or to die trying," Vrexil observed. The ship lurched violently, sending all 3 of them staggering. The lights flickered as auxiliary power systems began to fail. "You have a choice, Lieutenant," Meta said urgently. "Help us stop Project Prometheus, or die for leaders who abandoned you." For a long moment, Ezra stood frozen in indecision. Then slowly, he lowered the plasma cannon. "How do we get out of here?" Vrexil moved quickly to a wall terminal. "There's a maintenance shaft that leads directly to the secondary shuttle bay. If any vessels remain—" "The Mrendarians took all but 1 shuttle," Ezra interrupted. "An older model, probably deemed too slow for their escape." "It will have to do," Vrexil decided. As they raced through the maintenance shaft, the ship continued to break apart around them. Emergency force fields flickered in and out of existence, barely, containing hull breaches as the antimatter containment degradation accelerated. 4 minutes to critical failure. They reached the secondary shuttle bay to find a single Tholian shuttle remaining, small, designed for short-range reconnaissance. "It's not designed for 3, Vrexil warned as they boarded. "Better cramped than vaporized," Meta replied grimly. Ezra took the co-pilot's seat beside Vrexil. "The Murendarian warship. They'll detect our launch." "Let them," Vrexil said, powering up the engines. "We need to get clear of the blast radius first. Problems later." The shuttle bay doors opened to reveal the vastness of space and the looming presence of the Mirandarian warship still in attack position near the crippled Eternal Vigilance. 3 minutes to critical failure. The small shuttle burst from the bay, immediately drawing weapons fire from the warship. Vrexel's skilled piloting kept them alive, but a glancing hit damaged their port thrusters. "We can't outrun them," he acknowledged, hands dancing across the controls. Ezra studied the tactical display. "Wait, look at this. The extraction shuttles aren't docking with the warship. They're heading away at maximum speed." "They're abandoning their allies?" Meta asked incredulously. "No," Vrexel realized with sudden clarity. "They know what's about to happen. The antimatter containment failure won't just destroy the Vigilance, it'll create a chain reaction in the Mirandarian vessel's power core." The warship seemed to realize this too late. It began to pull away from the Tholian vessel, but its massive size made swift maneuvering impossible. 2 minutes to critical failure. "There," Ezra pointed to a nearby asteroid field. "If we can reach that, the radiation and debris might mask our signature." Vrexel pushed the damaged shuttle to its limits, racing toward the asteroids as the countdown continued. Behind them, the Eternal Vigilance began to break apart, structural integrity failing as the antimatter containment deteriorated. 1 minute to critical failure. They reached the edge of the asteroid field just as the Vigilance exploded in a blinding flash of energy. The shockwave caught them, sending the shuttle tumbling end over end deeper into the asteroid field. Vrexel fought for control as emergency systems blared warnings about structural integrity and life support. When they finally stabilized, the view screen showed the aftermath. Where the Tholian ship and Mirandarian warship had been, there was now only an expanding cloud of superheated plasma and debris. The extraction shuttles were nowhere to be seen, either destroyed in the blast or escaped to safety. Did we stop them?" Meta asked hoarsely. "Not entirely," Ezra admitted. "Kovalev would have transmitted their research data before attempting to escape with the specimens. The Orion Concordat has other facilities, other ships." Vrexel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "But they've lost their Mirandarian allies and their research subjects. They'll need to start again." "Which gives us time," Meta said, determination in her voice. "Time to warn the Galactic Concord about both threats, Project Prometheus and these Void Ones Ezra mentioned." Ezra looked between the human doctor and Tholian commander. "You believe me about the Void Ones?" "I believe something convinced the Mirandarians to ally with human extremists," Vrexel replied carefully. "Whether it's exactly as you described, the Concord must investigate." Their shuttle's communication system crackled to life, picking up a distant signal. "Any survivors? Galactic Concord vessel Horizon responding to distress signals." Hope surged through the small craft as Meta opened a channel to respond. Their ordeal wasn't over, far from it. But as Vrexel watched the human doctor and former Orion Concordat lieutenant working side by side to boost their distress signal, he understood a fundamental truth. The Deathworlders had indeed sent a weapon in response to the Tholian SOS. But in Dr. Asha Mehta, they had also sent something unexpected. Compassion resilient enough to survive even the darkest circumstances. Perhaps that was humanity's true evolutionary advantage, not their physical adaptability, but their capacity for both terrible destruction and remarkable redemption. As the Concord vessel approached, Vrexel realized this wasn't an ending at all. It was merely the opening salvo in a far greater conflict, one that would require the strength of Deathworlders and the wisdom of the collective alike. What the humans had sent wasn't merely help, nor was it simply a weapon. It was a warning.